Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Dandelion Reflections podcast. My host, Christopher, and myself, Caroline, are pleased to welcome a special guest today. Her name is Bronwyn Schweigerdt. She's a therapist, and she created the Center for Integration of Anger. If I misspelled it, please correct me. And I had the distinct pleasure to meet Bronwyn recently. She reached out to me and we had a great conversation. And I thought that our audience would highly benefit from her wisdom and her experience. So we'll have a great conversation today. Just a reminder, this is a podcast where my co-host Christopher and I discuss topics pertaining to resilience, how to access it in order to heal. We invite guests from all kinds of disciplines and fields because resilience really is a broad topic and there are various portals to accessing it. So it can be the field of psychology, science, medicine, spirituality, etc. So welcome. Good morning, Christopher. Good morning, Bronwyn, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Welcome, Bronwyn, and thank you, Caroline, for this wonderful introduction. And Bronwyn, again, wonderful to have you here. And it sounds like we're going to have another wonderful and very interesting episode today with you here.
I hope so. I hope I can entertain and inform all at once.
I'm sure you will. So, as a male,
Mm.
and anger, that is something that I'm sure might trigger many of my gender colleagues. And I immediately get this um, bad conscience there because not only for me personally, but I know that many of my fellow humans that call themselves of male gender are statistically overrepresented in that anger related topics. So when we throw ourselves through the door at once, what would you say to that?
Yeah, well, let's talk about anger. I agree that what I usually hear is that men are more in touch with their anger than women are,
Hmm.
which is actually, I think, usually a compliment, meaning that women need to be more in touch. But it's also maybe a comment or, a commentary on men are socialized to be angry, which is good, but women are not. And so women in that way are disempowered. And I tend to agree with that, in a general sense. But, anger can look like a lot of things. And I think the anger that gets the most headlines, if you will, the most sensational anger is, the really big anger, the explosive anger.
Hmm.
And if we only see anger as that, if that's the only, window that we have, that's really unfortunate because usually that big explosive anger is either what I call reactive anger, and we can talk more about that, or it's anger that has been built up because it has been suppressed for way too long. So if we can work, and this is what my work is, I want to train other therapists especially in this, but if we can work as therapists, as individuals, to heal our relationship with our anger so it's a healthy relationship, then we're not going to be suppressing, exploding, and we won't even have the reactive anger. And so there's the healthy anger. So the healthy anger is, let's say, we scheduled this meeting today for 9 a.m. Let's say, Christopher, you waltzed in 15 minutes late, and maybe this is the third time you've done that, right? So I'm going to feel some anger. And if I had suppressed my anger the first two times, if I had been too afraid, to disrupt the equilibrium, if I had been conditioned to believe it's not okay to be assertive and to kind of hold people accountable, and I just dissociated from my anger, well, I bet that third time I am going to erupt, right? Because it's time number three. But if I had a healthy relationship to my anger from the get-go, and the first time I said, hey, Christopher, what's going on? Okay, that's me tapping in to my anger, connecting with my anger. Usually we feel it here in our chest. And that's me outletting that anger in a healthy way. And do you feel like I'm angry? Are you like, oh my God, Bronwyn, calm down? No, you're like, oh, well, let me tell you what happened. And then based on your response, I can determine if I'm still angry or not, right? So if you said, hey, I got in a car accident or whatever, I'm not going to be angry anymore. But that's me being responsible with my anger, is to just check in with you. But it doesn't sound angry, but I am channeling it out of my body, so it's not stagnating inside of me, waiting to erupt the second or the third time, if that makes sense.
Very eloquently said. I love
Yes,
that.
really. So,
Yes.
if I may, Caroline, I'm sorry. This is very exciting, and I really love that because uh, what I understand you're doing here is you take out this, let's say, anger ball out of your chest,
Mm-hmm.
and you look at it. What is this? And you invite others
Mm-hmm.
to look at it. What's
Mm-hmm.
this? Is this really anger, or is it something that I built up by myself? Is the other person in some way, uh, I don't want to use the word responsible, but does do they have a part in
Mm-hmm.
whatever I put into this anger ball?
Well, I think it is definitely anger. I think the first step in cultivating a healthy relationship with the anger is to name it and say,
Hmm.
okay, Bronwyn, you feel it right here in your chest. Maybe a lot of times we feel it in our throat or our neck. It's like our throat wants to say something, right? And if I say that's anger, that is okay to feel. What does this anger need from me right now? Oh, it needs to inquire, hey, Christopher, what's going on?
Hmm.
Right. And so now I'm channeling it out of my throat, out of my chest. And based on your response, I'm like, oh, that anger wasn't valid because he like really got in a car accident or
Hmm.
whatever. Or, hey, that anger is valid because that's a really bad excuse that he's giving, or maybe he's not apologetic at all.
Hmm.
So it starts with saying it's okay to feel anger. That is valid. That is good. So if we can see our anger as a proverbial warning light on the dashboard of our car saying, hey, check under the hood. Something is off, right? We don't look at the dashboard of our car and go, oh no, let's ignore that. No, we say, hey, that is for my benefit. I don't want to ignore that. There's something I need to go under the hood. I need to see what this is, if it's legitimate or not, but there's something off. And so if we can view anger as something's off, let's find out what it is, and the goal is to resolve it. The goal isn't for me to just vent all over you. The goal is to bring resolution to what's off. And so if you say, I got in an accident, well, resolve. I'm resolved now. I'm like, okay, there's no more problem. That's good enough. Thank you for sharing that with me. But if you have no excuse, if you have no apology, if you don't care, then now that anger is still there and I know it's valid, and I need to say, okay, this is good. This is telling me something's still off. So what do we need? What does this anger need from me? Does it need a boundary? Maybe it needs to say, hey, Christopher, if this happens again, like, we're not going to work together, right? So that's a boundary, accountability, assertiveness. Those are really the three big things.
Hmm.
This is so helpful, Bronwyn. Basically, emotions such as anger should not be labeled as good or bad. They're just
Right.
indicating something. They're messengers, right? So
Yeah.
we need to pay attention to them. We need to listen to them and decode them in order to take action or rectify situation.
Exactly right. And so let's talk about why we tend to label anger as bad. So
Yes.
I mentioned, we talked about, boys are
Mhm.
socialized to be okay with anger, girls less or so in general. So why is that? What is going on? Why do we see anger as bad? to begin with. And I really believe as a psychotherapist that it starts implicitly probably around year 1.5 to 2 years when we start to go through the terrible two, so to speak, where we start to differentiate from mom, from dad. And if we have a parent who is, not that they're a monster necessarily, although those exist too, but if they're just really uneducated about how, child development, they see that differentiation as bad. Maybe they take it very personally because their own, ego strength, their own constitution is so fragile. And they're like, oh no, kid, you know. So they'll shame the child. They might give like a silent treatment kind of thing where their voice is like less warm, where they're not making eye contact. They might erupt in anger. And if the child experiences any of that, two things happen. One is they feel shame because children have no objectivity to say, oh, that's a mom problem. They have no objectivity. They think that is a me problem.
Yeah.
I'm bad. When mom is giving me silent treatment, I'm bad, right? So they get shame. And the second thing is they associate their little brains, what fires together, wires together, as far as neurology, their little brains are now associating their differentiation with, abandonment by a parent. And kids cannot afford that at that age. And so they kind of just say, okay, no more anger. Anger's bad. Anger's shameful. I'm just going to override my natural need to differentiate. So I really believe that's kind of what is underneath our dysfunctional relationship with our own anger from the get-go.
Wow, this is life-changing, I'm sure. It's been for me. I've been shamed and over in my life, even as an adult. And I think the gender aspect also doesn't help because women are not expected or to be angry or they are not tolerated when expressing anger, even in a healthy way. It's just too intolerable. There's some kind of discomfort there because sometimes anger I find is associated with people who are truth tellers, right? And people don't like to hear the truth usually because truth is not really about everything is beautiful in life. It's also about messy stuff, often about messy stuff. So I find that very validating. And I'm sure many people can relate with that because yes, anger is often labeled as bad. You look ugly when you're angry and the kid internalizes this and it can create so much damage. And as you know, when we suppress these emotions, they just continue to build up and that leads to acting outs.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what happens as well, so let's say my mom is giving me the cold treatment when I differentiate, when I say no, God forbid I say no at age 2 to my mom, right? And so she's giving the cold treatment. What happens implicitly is my little brain is now saying, oh, you're responsible for mom's feelings. Right. So we're learning I'm responsible for other people's feelings.
Right.
And so that is really tragic, but most of us do that. That leads to what we call codependency. But to believe we are responsible for other people's feelings is, first of all, it's not possible. It's not even possible. And I tell my clients, you can believe it's possible, but you will die trying to be responsible for other people's feelings. Only mom is responsible for mom's feelings. We are responsible to other people, but never for other people. But we are responsible for our feelings. And if we were conditioned to believe we're responsible for other people's feelings, we cannot simultaneously be responsible for our own feelings. It's really an either or.
Right. I like when you... Yeah, go ahead, Christopher. Many things. Go.
You go.
Well, I just wanted to emphasize what you were explaining, Bronwyn, about how anger gets paired with something like, for instance, in my case or in cases of people I've worked with, in my clinical settings, basically expressing anger leads to being rejected. So people will associate experiencing anger to something very life-threatening. So therefore, yeah, that's another mechanism why they will repress it. So that's why I think it's important to pay attention to, okay, what is the narrative that involves anger in my life? What do I pair that with? What do I associate that with? And how can I demystify anger and recreate a new positive, healthier association?
But there is some truth to that, because like you said, the truth hurts. People don't want to hear the truth. And the truth is, you will be abandoned or rejected by people. But here's the thing. So this is my, I founded the Center for Anger and Integration. We can't have truly a healthy relationship with our anger until we integrate for ourselves and we give ourselves our approval. We repair our relationship with ourselves and say, you know what, maybe this person is going to get mad and reject you. And so what? I've got me now. I'm not going to abandon me anymore. So F them. Like I'm fine without them. Do me a favor. So the more we heal our relationship with ourselves and integrate, the more free we are. We're no longer needing to placate other people.
I love that. That is so important. And helping ourselves to become more responsible for ourselves, not relying on other people and other people's love and affection. And yeah, what has this person that is about to leave my life because of whatever that I cannot give to myself from inside? And this is so, yeah, it may hurt at that moment, and we may feel anger and have again a bad conscience, but well, it's helpful. And yes, you mentioned do me a favor. Yeah, it is a favor. I could imagine, really.
Yeah. So I want to say, like, one story I'll share that happened about 5 years ago was with my father. So I'm 55 now. He's 85. I haven't spoken to him in several years, and it's been amazing. But a few years ago, my husband and I went to visit him and took him out to dinner for his birthday. And when we were waiting to be seated, there was confusion where he was told we were going to be in one room, and I said, Dad, they're not going to be able to seat us in that room. The people there just sat down, and there's only 2 tables. Like, that's not going to happen. And he was misinformed by a waiter, I guess. And so he started to throw a tantrum, okay, as emotionally immature people do. He started a tantrum, and my inherent response initially was, oh, I have to be responsible for his feelings. And I just, all of a sudden, it was like my body wouldn't let me do that. And I look and I see him tantruming. I see my husband, who was trying to placate him desperately. He was doing exactly what he'd been conditioned to do. And I said to myself, those are Mike's feelings. Only Mike is responsible for his feelings. Bronwyn, you are not responsible for his feelings. And I went to the host. I said to the host, and she was wonderful, I said, I've got a tantruming toddler parent right here who is having a hard time. Can you go ahead and seat me at one of these tables? And when he stops tantruming, maybe you can seat him. And she was great. She goes, oh, I have one of those too. I know. And, she seated me. Eventually, my husband joined me. And eventually, when Mike stopped tantruming, he joined me. And he was like embarrassed. He was humiliated and he did that to himself. But in that moment, though, when I just paused and I said, you're not responsible for Mike's feelings, Mike is. And I just kept going forward. I felt like that day I was an adult for the first time in my life. And every day since then, like everyone else in the world is so easy compared to a parent. When you can do that with a parent, when you can integrate and be like, I don't need your approval. I have my approval. And you stand your ground. There's just something that shifts in your whole collective being where you become this very powerful, differentiated person with everyone else in the world. It just comes so naturally.
I had shivers hearing you saying that you were becoming, or you felt like an adult, Bronwyn, for the first time. And to me, it sounds like the process of reparenting oneself.
Yeah.
Because when you said, I'm not responsible for Mike's emotions, I'm responsible for me, I don't need anyone else's approval. It seems like what a parent should say, right? What a fully attuned parent should say to each child. But we know that reality is not like that. So we need to do that ourselves.
Yeah.
This is our responsibility. We have to take ownership. We might not have wanted what happened to us in childhood, but we have to accept it. Doesn't mean we agree, but we accept it, we see it, and then we take action. And we recalibrate, so to speak, or recondition ourselves.
Somehow I got this image of a parent and a toddler in a supermarket in the cashier zone, and the kid is so angry because they didn't get their, I don't know, candy or toy or whatever, throwing themselves on the ground, screaming, and the parent just stands beside there and enjoying the scene and the view. And so eventually this child will stop. And I think it's a it's a nerve game. The one who has the better nerves will win. And in your case, in the restaurant, it's such a wow moment. I'm sure I don't even know who had the bigger wow moment at that moment. But it's wonderful, and how you solved that. And this, I think many parents that might listen to us right now can actually take a lot from this situation that you described there. Wonderful. And it's being a parent for the first time. Yeah, I love that. Really great. Thank you for that story.
You're welcome. I would have more empathy with an actual child. I would say it's hard not getting your way. That's hard. I would validate their experience. I'm not going to do that with an 80-year-old man, but yeah, it is very akin to that.
Yeah.
And I think one of the key elements, Bronwyn and Christopher, that you're describing in those two scenarios is the self-regulation of the parent. That's foundational, like refusing to react or be triggered, basically seeing the trigger before we enact a response. So basically staying grounded, I think, helps to break that pattern. Because I feel like also, and tell me if I'm incorrect, but emotions are often contagious. And I think anger also is one of them. Sometimes when we think it's our anger, it's not even our anger. It's like someone else's not being able to process their anger, just projects it onto us, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, I think maybe, let me tell you another example of something that really helped me in this regard. So, shortly before this happened with my father, maybe a 6 months before, one day I went running and my brain was kind of processing a lot of things my clients were going through. And for some reason, I was at a stoplight. I closed my eyes and I picture my adult self going to my 10-year-old self. So 10-year-old Bronwyn was at the dinner table where every night at dinner, her dad would mock her like throughout the night, just mock, the whole dinner. And I saw myself going to 10-year-old Bronwyn, getting down her level. And this is what I now call an integration exercise, by the way, but my brain just spontaneously came up with this. And I went and I get down on her level. I looked her in the eyes and I said, Bronwyn, I know how much shame you feel right now because he is mocking you so much. But here's what I need you to do. Let's put all the shame you feel in this big cardboard box, and we're going to give it back to Mike. We're going to say, here you go, Mike. Turns out this was never mine. This has always been yours, and I'm returning to owner. And then I look back at little Bronwyn and I say, little Bronwyn, there's nothing shameful about you. I see you. Maybe Mike can never see you, the real you, your heart. But I see your heart, and it is good. I am pleased with you, and you matter to me. Your feelings matter. Your needs matter. And you know what? I want to apologize, little Bronwyn, that I have neglected you. I have been a lot like our parents with you and emotionally neglected you. And I need to apologize. And I'm committed now to winning back your trust in me, because I'm going to help you feel those feelings, because what's shareable is bearable. So you won't have to feel them in isolation anymore. We'll feel them together now. I will be angry with you and for you. And I will help to channel that anger out of your body into boundaries and assertive speech. And we'll be a team now. And so I took her by the hand and I walked her right out of that house. And we closed that front door firmly behind us. And I said, little Bronwyn, it's a new day for us. So that's basically what I do now with my clients, what I call an integration exercise, which is what I'm hoping to train other therapists in. It's a modality that takes like 60 seconds. And I do this with myself even now when I find new triggers in my life, things that still trigger me. I go, okay, what's this about? And I'll do an integration exercise with my inner child.
Magnificent.
I'm speechless.
Your clients are so lucky, Bronwyn, to have you.
Really? Oh my God. Really wonderful.
Yes.
I don't know even what to say now. Like it seems, well, we could stop now because everything's said, but I have so many questions.
Well, let me tell you, like, thank you. I appreciate the praise. I have to say it's a little hard to hear, but you know, maybe my clients are lucky to have me, but I myself, so I was in a depressive episode for 5 years, a very profound, very extreme depressive episode where I was not able to work. I would get let go from different jobs because my brain, I couldn't think, like I couldn't remember things. I couldn't really even formulate words. It was very humiliating. I actually attempted suicide at one point, and I was, talk about humiliating, being in a 5150, 72-hour hold in a hospital when you're a licensed therapist. That's pretty humiliating. So I myself have suffered, and yet I couldn't, when I, started the depression, I could not find a therapist to help me, to save my life. And I mean that in a literal sense. I couldn't find anyone who would mirror me and help me understand what is going on. What I need someone to help me understand myself, and no one was able to do that. And so I had to be that person. And what really caused that depression in the first place, looking back, and now my next podcast episode is going to be more about this journey. But I see in retrospect, it was just shame. It was all shame. It was shame not from my father originally. In this case, it was shame from, when I started out as a trainee, as a therapist, starting with the first supervisor I had. And he, saw me as the problem. And I just agreed with it. And that's the thing. I'd love to just blame him, but I was very much a participant in this by going, yeah, I guess I am the problem. Right. And I'll just change. And so I just kept doing that, where people in authority were pointing at me saying, you're the problem. And I had no critical thinking. I engaged in no critical thinking. I just said, I guess I'm the problem. And I just took in the shame, and I took in the shame, and I just kept taking it in until it brought me to a place where my brain just shut down and I couldn't function. And I see now that it took me to coming back to life was me seeing it clearly and giving back those people their shame in my imagination, like I did with my dad. And now I'm at this place where I see shame as the true enemy. And
Yeah.
the beauty of anger, though, is when we start to dislodge all the shame that was never ours, our anger is what creates like this invisible force field between us and someone who's trying to dump their shame onto us. And that invisible force field is impenetrable. And we're never going to allow that shame in again. So it doesn't mean we act out with that person. It doesn't mean we, see them as the enemy. Some people are just unconsciously doing that. But it gives us this critical thinking to say, is this even true? No, I don't think it is. Right. And so we can have that assertiveness. We can have that boundary, and we're not getting that shame anymore.
I love how you encourage us to question whatever is happening around us, and maybe also in ourselves with our own thoughts. And it's 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 um it's such a huge relief maybe for many to realize, oh, it's because of simplified now. It's because of my parents. It's because of my upbringing. It's because of this and this. Um, and yeah, that may or may not be true, but does it help you in any way right now? It often doesn't. Those people may have some kind of responsibility for whatever happened to us at that time. Did they do it in bad faith? I would say mostly not, because
Mm-hmm.
most of the people around us didn't know any better. But when we realize that, we can forgive, right? And we can have this boundary even stronger, theirs and mine, to be able to go on and heal ourselves and do better and stop this often multi-generational
Yes.
flaw, or yeah, to finally stop. To someone needs to step out.
Yeah, because so shame, people think it's a feeling, and it can have feeling, but really what I believe it is a worldview. It's a belief system. And, what shame, it's a liar, because shame says, it says you have to be perfect. You have to be all good, or else you're all bad. There's no like healthy human spectrum. And so when we dislodge the shame, we can say to our inner child, you know what, you made a mistake. But that's what is most beautiful about humans, is we make mistakes and we learn from them.
Right.
And that's beautiful. And with me, you're allowed to be human. And
Yeah.
there's nothing shameful about being human. So it kind of restores us our humanity, where shame, siphons that off. It tries to steal our humanity, our ability to be human.
Well, there's so much packed there. So many helpful messages and wisdom nuggets, we say, right? Nuggets of wisdom. The shame. So often, or would you say that under unprocessed anger or disproportionate anger,
Mhm.
there could be shame that's unprocessed or shame that's not acknowledged, right? If we don't.
Yes, yes. Yeah, so you're going back to reactive anger. What I call reactive
Yeah.
anger
Yeah.
isn't healthy anger. It's a sign that there's shame. So there's healthy
Yes.
anger when something is legitimately wrong and we're being
Mhm.
betrayed in some way. And then there's the reactive anger, like, so Carolyn, what you said earlier about people react if you're speaking the truth. Well, the truth hurts. So
Mhm.
if you're experiencing someone's reactive anger, that's a
Mhm.
tell. That's a
Mhm.
tell that they have shame around this thing. And so
Yeah.
there's different ways to go at about that. You can say to that person, "Hey, I'm not shaming you.
Mhm.
I make mistakes. I do the same thing." So you could disarm it by just saying, "I'm a human, you're a human. There's no shame." But if there's someone with so much shame and so much reactive anger, they're not hearing that and they don't believe you. assume you're trying to shame them, then you just have to have a boundary and say, it seems like you're projecting something onto me and I'm not going to let you treat me like this.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And would you say that there's also a transgenerational aspect to shame and anger? Because I kind of noticed that in certain people, knowing a little bit about their family history. And I feel like, okay, this person might have had shame or anger that was not processed. And now this descendant enacts it or embodies it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think every family system has it. But, there's different beliefs about what's shameful and what's not. And there's like higher shaming in some cultures, some family cultures. There's what we call shame and honor culture that's still very much alive and well in the world, where it's totally fine to shame the hell out of your children. Like that's seen as a good thing, right? And so to get them to do what you want. So it depends the degree. But all of us, all of us have shame. All families have some shame, and we all have to do that work to dislodge it and to help our kids as well. I've had to apologize to my daughter, she's 22, and say, you know what, for example, one thing I did is I said, when I emotionally neglected you when I fell into my depression, and I want to apologize. And I need you, Edie, to know that the shame that you felt from my neglect, that's not your shame. That's my shame. So let's put all that shame in a box and I want you to give it back to me and I'm going to go dispose of it. But that was not a reflection of you. That was 100% a reflection of me. So we can repair our relationship with our kids. That helped her significantly, actually, when I did that with her. She had, and I'm not kidding, she had headaches and stomach aches almost daily for 14 years. And when I said that to her, when we repaired our relationship, the headaches and the stomach aches completely stopped. And her anxiety also completely stopped.
Oh, wow.
That day.
Oh my God, that's well huge. It doesn't even.
That's
Wow.
eye-opening. What a beautiful process you've done for yourself and with your daughter for her. I'm so inspired by your journey, and thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that I give that illustration just to say shame is powerful and it will lodge in our bodies and it will make us sick. And so those are somatic examples, but
Mhm.
also it causes, well, obviously anxiety is mental illness, but the somatic illness is her headaches and stomach pain. I mean, I see that all the time. So I see mental illness and then somatic illness, mostly from dissociated anger that is stagnant in our body that we haven't been responsible with, and from shame. It's really those two things. It's really that simple. And those things are from not living in reality. And so as we can, live in reality and dislodge the shame and feel that anger, we gain mental and physical health.
Wow, I see so many images of people around me that would really need to come over and see you. That
Yes.
would really get a lot of help from you. I love this. So it's so unbelievable how much this is. What did I even wanted to say? Right, I wanted to say our healthcare system, and now I'm speaking from the perspective of living in Sweden. Um, we have this standardized um, one symptom, one uh, appointment with your doctor type of approach, and there's no time to look behind what is behind the symptom. What is there more? Exploring, actually talking to the patient. What is it more that bothers you? What could be behind this? How is your family situation? How is your life work situation and there's no time for that. So all of what is focused on are these symptoms, and you get your pills, and that's it.
Mhm.
So that's so sad, and this is a huge cost factor for society.
Right.
And it could be so easy, just 1 hour more with a specialist who really knows what they're talking about could fix a whole lot more. So
Yeah.
what's your picture of that,
Yeah,
your
I think,
perspective?
I don't think Western medicine really gets to the root at all. Unfortunately, I think a lot of therapy these days doesn't get to the root either. We're just managing symptoms.
Mm.
And as we can go to the root of disease in my book is shame and dissociated anger. As we can take our lives, our health into our own hands, parent ourselves, and dislodge those things and be responsible for our anger. And we're going to take our health back. And I think we have to do that, on an individual basis. I don't think we can rely on experts to do that. But yeah, so I have my podcast for anyone who wants to hear more about this, and it's called Angry at the Right Things. And so I do walk listeners at times through integration exercises where they do this for themselves. My goal is to even bypass therapists. I mean, I want to train therapists, but I myself, like I said, couldn't find a decent therapist. So bypass therapists too. Let's just do this for ourselves.
Wonderful. Empower ourselves. I love that.
I feel the same as a physician. I feel like everyone should become their self healers.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to go out of business one day because that would be a great sign.
Yeah.
I want to do something else with my life. I want people to feel empowered and take ownership for their journey and not put that in my hands.
Yeah.
I think the world will be a better place once everyone becomes conscious. And I think you mentioned
Mhm.
that earlier, the consciousness, right? People might do things unconsciously. We all would benefit greatly from being more conscious about what's going on inside of us and around us.
We have to. And so going back to the integration, what research shows is consciousness is what integrates our brain. So if we have neural networks that are all integrated and firing, we're at optimal health. But if we're not conscious, if we're dissociating, if there's like one neural network that's not integrated, that's where we're dissociative. So we're dissociating from anger, we're dissociating from emotions. That is going to create disintegration where we're not healthy. And anger is kind of what activates those neural networks to come back online and integrate.
I have I sometimes get the impression that people actually feel uh, very good and safe in some kind of a victim role, uh,
Mm,
blaming others. It's their fault that it, but taking responsibility, as you said, for my own situation actually cannot happen. No, taking responsibility cannot happen when we if we not let go of this. Shaming others maybe because we've that's what we've learned, right? We've been shamed, so it's we learned this is a way to cope with this. This is a way to handle other people. So
yeah.
uh, until we let go of that,
Mm,
uh, both being the victim and
yeah.
the what's the right word here?
The perpetrator.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Nothing will happen if we hold on and cling to these roles, both for ourselves and others. So taking
Mhm.
responsibility is shedding all that, taking a new path, and taking a new set of rules for ourselves and others.
Yeah. I think, so a lot of codependents, they have so much empathy for everyone but themselves.
Hmm.
It's like, well, it's beautiful you have empathy for others, but it's really toxic that you have no empathy for yourself. Someone like discussing, Christopher, a victim, what I call, and that's usually what I call like someone with borderline personality disorder who just sees himself always as the innocent victim. Everyone else is to blame. And they have all this empathy for them, but they have no empathy for anyone else. And so a healthy, integrated person says, hey, you know what? You matter, and I have empathy for you, but I matter too. And I have empathy for me. And so I hear you that you were late today. But I also need you to respect that you can't continue to be late because that's not respectful for me. And so we can have it for everyone, and we need to have that for everyone. But we have to live in reality. So we have to own that we haven't been an innocent victim all the time, that we have very much contributed to our own suffering.
Yes. Colleen, you're speechless too.
Yes, absolutely. I wish I had met Bronwyn earlier in my life.
Oh yeah, I believe
And at the
that.
same time, maybe it is the right time. The life unfolds as it should, right? And everything we go through is there to teach us something. And like you emphasized as well, and life is a learning process. And um, I think what matters is to really have those insights sooner than later, or better late than never, and expand and really disseminate that light so that others can see too, but without forcing. Of course, we can't take ownership for people's coping and their own reaction and emotions. So, but I think we can be that model of consciousness and resilience and ownership for our own experience. And I just
Exactly.
love it. Yeah, right. And I love the image of the putting the shame in a box and giving it back to the sender. This is going to stay with me. I'm going to quote you with my patients, because with trauma survivors, there's a lot of
Yeah.
shame that's associated with their trauma experience.
Yeah.
But often it is the shame of the perpetrator that they're bearing, and it's unfair, and it's not theirs to bear. So
I would actually say that's my definition of abuse.
yeah,
The abuse is the shaming of someone who doesn't deserve the shame, whether that's verbal, physical, sexual, right? And that's the whole goal of abuse. And so, as that survivor can say, not my shame, and we give it back, we come back to life.
yeah, come back to life. We are reborn again.
Yes.
Life is a cycle of mini deaths of our illusions, our ego, or but then we're reborn as we're more aware.
Yeah. But we're the ones who are behind that this time.
Yes.
So, Bronwyn, you already mentioned your podcast. Could you tell our audience that again, and how else they could
Yeah.
contact you in case they would like to talk to you?
Yeah. So my podcast is called Angry at the Right Things. And then I also have a YouTube channel, Angry at the Right Things. And then my center to train other therapists is called the Center for Anger and Integration. And I have a few continuing education trainings for other therapists where you can get, CEs, you can get units for that.
Cool.
What a beautiful initiative and work you're doing. Thank you for that.
Really.
Yeah. Well,
And
thank
truly,
you. Thank you. What's that?
truly, and truly life-changing for many that may
Yes.
meet you. I am
Yeah.
positively sure.
Thank you for
Well,
helping us reframing the anger. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, this has all been learned, through the school of hard knocks, obviously for me, but I look back on that horrible, hellish time of my life and I say, I would not want to be in that place for another hour, but I guess it was worth it because I'm able to help other people now, and that's worth it. So, yeah,
Right.
thank you guys for having me and disseminating this.
Thank you for being with us today. It was a real treat and an honor.
Yes. Thank you,
Thank you.
Bronwyn, for walking us through that process and for sharing your wisdom. It's very
Yeah.
precious. And
Thank you.
thank you to all the dandelions out there who listen to this today
Yes.
and were with us.
And let us know your thoughts in the comments, and share this with anyone you think that would need it. And I'm sure we'll meet again next time. Thank you for
Yes.
today.
Yes, I think I'd like to invite you again, Bronwyn. We need a part 2 for this. Right,
Yes,
Christopher?
right, we
I'm
do.
totally happy for that. That would be great.
Wonderful. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much,
both.
Bronwyn.
Thank you, everyone, for
Bye-bye.
joining.
You're welcome.
Bye. Be well.